Hey team, Tony here at Stagecoach Pharmacy, answering another question I frequently get. Doesn't my insurance company cover that? Today I'm going to tell you 4 ways that drug insurance companies intentionally avoid paying for claims or discouraging you to get your medication or requiring that you pay out of pocket, not allowing you to use your insurance. The first method insurance companies employ is they make the cost of the medication too high. So even though you have insurance, what the insurance company will do is set your copay at a ridiculously high price. This is commonly done in the beginning of the year, so January, February, March, April, when people have deductibles. Most people notice that a simple blood pressure medication or a cholesterol medication that they could find a coupon for and pay $15, $20, or $25 suddenly cost $40, $50, $60, $70, or $80. Obviously, since you could purchase this medication cheaper without your insurance, most people will do exactly that. What that does is it makes sure that people are further away from hitting their deductibles, in which case their insurance companies would be required to chip in. So, the first method that insurance companies employ to avoid paying for claims is setting the cost of your copay ridiculously high. Again, this is intentionally done because you as a consumer, if you could find a coupon on the internet for that medication and not use your insurance, you would most definitely do so. Insurance companies do this intentionally because then you're one step further from hitting your deductible. A second method that insurance companies use to make sure that you don't have access to your medication is they actually set the reimbursement at the pharmacy too low. You might find that your cost for your prescription is $0 because you've either hit your deductible or it is a tier 1 medication, which means it's a medication that's very widely available and generally very affordable. What the insurance company will do is reimburse the pharmacy generally somewhere in the neighborhood of 53 cents or far below the cost of the medication. Oftentimes the reimbursement is even lower than the cost of the bottle and the lid and the sticker that surrounds the prescription. And what this does is causes the insurance to have an amazingly good amount of leverage against the pharmacy. So what the pharmacy will do is either tell you the medication is out of stock, which is not true, or what they will do is they will reverse the insurance claim and charge you a fair cash price that allows the pharmacy to continue to do business. Again, the medication is well covered by your insurance, but because the insurance company is intentionally paying the pharmacy well below cost, it discourages the pharmacy from using your insurance or even giving you the medication entirely. Oftentimes, pharmacies tell people that the medication's out of stock. Sometimes they'll even volunteer to call other pharmacies to see if they have the medication. Of course, this is a good way for pharmacies to scoop up new customers, but it's not a great way to reliably get your medication as a consumer. Oftentimes, big box pharmacies will rely on these loss leader prescriptions, and what they do to mitigate the loss is they will only fill a 30-day supply at a time, often receiving a nominal fee such as 50 cents, maybe $1. And what they will do is they will delay dispensing that medication as long as possible. If you are a customer who's going to be waiting in store, they'll generally tell you the wait time for the medication can be upwards of 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes even longer, because they are so busy. Or what they'll do is tell you to come back the next day and they'll send that medication to what's called a central fill facility, which means another facility off premise that is simply just there to fill your medication. We'll fill the medication, transfer that filled prescription to the pharmacy, and then you come back the next day to receive that medication. The reason why big box pharmacies do this is because they're hoping that you will stick around in the store and buy some other things such as candy, groceries, other items if it's a Walmart, for example, or a pharmacy inside of a Target. This is a good way for those pharmacies to get you to show up 12 times a year and shop around and spend money. It's a bit frustrating because you're really there just to get a prescription. You should be able to get a 90-day supply, but because the reimbursement is so low, the pharmacy has to find ways to make money on you in some other method. Oftentimes, the pharmacy will also use this as an opportunity to try and offer you vaccines. Some you might need, many you probably don't, because you're probably caught up if you're a health-conscious consumer in America. But again, the second method that drug insurance companies employ to avoid paying for the cost of your medication is reimbursing the pharmacy too little for your prescription. So the first method we talked about was making your copay too high. I often see that happen in first responders, such as police officers, firefighters, EMS workers. I also see that a lot in teachers' retirement services plans, which is really upsetting because a lot of people chose to become teachers for the insurance coverage. And now the second method that we talked about was reimbursing the pharmacy too low, which discourages the pharmacy from filling your prescription. The third method that we see often at the pharmacy where insurance companies try to avoid paying drug claims is what's called a prior authorization, also known as step therapy. The idea behind this is that the insurance company doesn't want to pay for an expensive medication unless you've tried generally 2 to 4 other cheaper alternatives in that same class of medication. Originally, this sounded like a good idea to help save money. However, what we find out often is that the first, second, or third drug the insurance company wants you to attempt and fail is generally a medication that's not as good as the doctor wants you to receive. And insurance companies take it a step further by requiring that your doctor's office reach out to the insurance company to complete the prior authorization, oftentimes with medical records and other notes that indicate the dates that you've tried and failed these medications. This is very challenging for doctors' offices to do. Many doctors' offices are part of a larger group. Patients move, doctors rotate in and out of different medical systems. And even more complicated is that physicians' offices don't actually get reimbursed for this work. So oftentimes a doctor's office will have to spend at least 15, sometimes 30 minutes on a prior authorization, also known as step therapy, work that they don't get reimbursed for, and oftentimes doesn't result in approval of coverage. When it does result in an approval of coverage, the insurance company has another card in their back pocket they can play. They can make sure the cost of the medication is ridiculously high, also discouraging the consumer from buying the medication. So we've got 3 strategies at this point. Strategy 1, making your copay so high that you use a coupon. Strategy 2, reimbursing the pharmacy so low to discourage them from dispensing the medication. And strategy 3, requiring prior authorization or step therapy. Now, the fourth strategy that insurance companies are now doing, which is rather brilliant in my opinion, is requiring that you use a brand medication instead of a generic medication. I thought this was an unheard of strategy, the concept being that generic medications are far cheaper than brand medications. So what insurance companies do is they create a contract with a brand name drug company, even though a generic might be available, and cheaper for you and your insurance company. But because that drug insurance company has a contract with the brand name manufacturer, you have to, in effect, use the more expensive medication. Your insurance company is unwilling to cover the cheaper medication, even though it is widely available. And they do this in 2 ways. They mandate that you get the brand name drug, and of course the cost is either too high, or they mandate that you get the brand name drug and they reimburse the pharmacy several $100s below the cost of the drug, which in effect creates the same issue as problem number 2. The pharmacy will either tell you that the drug is out of stock, or they will be required to charge you significantly more than what your copay should be, and ultimately offer you the generic at a cheaper cost, either with a coupon or an in-house price that also circumvents your insurance from requiring to pay the claim. So, insurance companies have 4 amazing strategies to avoid paying for the cost of your medication. Many of these are well employed, and a lot of people just don't know about these. So we often get the question, why does my insurance company not cover that? And the answer usually lies in one of those 4 options. Either your copay is set artificially too high by the insurance company, the reimbursement to the pharmacy is set significantly too low, below the cost of the drug, or they create a step therapy, aka prior authorization situation, and more recently requiring that you take a brand name medication even though there is a suitable generic drug on the market. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. Tony here at Stagecoach Pharmacy. If you have any more questions, give it to us. Happy to make a video.